parts of it, you look at Mandera, the northern frontier, the upper sides of northern Kenya are fairly places where the MCAs and the governors and the CECs actually live in Nairobi. So they get mileage claims, they get everything else. So we are dealing with not just an Isiolo problem, but you're dealing with, and I'm happy that you study these accounts, you're dealing with a Kenyan problem, which you need to sort out both from the national level and at the county level. So I am happy, and I'm sure that the deputy governor knows that Isiolo is the governor has come to the Senate a couple of times, and I think he has been called all manner of names. But look, I think he knows that he can also buy himself out of the Senate. That is a sad story, that you have an extractive Senate that cannot even hold the governor accountable. So they come there, pick, even if they impeached, like they've tried to impeach a couple of things. So Boni, we have a catastrophe. And the only way to deal with that is what Abdi says here is a political revolution in a way that puts up the systems and the institutions together, a way that works for us. But Anthony, I saw your hand up.
Yes, Neto. One of the things that I feel, and I remember when I first coming on Spaces, I told people, for the first time, I feel Kenya is in a yes, we can moment. Now, how we as a generation and how we as the people on these spaces who are able actually to shape this narrative, use this time will define Kenyan's politics and governance structure for the next couple of decades. Now, when the diaspora come in, and this is the first time where Kenyans in diaspora and Kenyans in Kenya are actually communicating about governance and leadership. Before this, it only used to be the political class who would fly to where you guys, people in the diaspora are, and they would have an engagement where promises would be made. Kenyans in the diaspora would give ideas on the Kenya they want, and they would actually say, we believe in this party, we'll support this party. But this is the first time that diaspora is actually now talking to Kenyans. It has never happened before in the democracy of this country. This is the first time. Now, this is where, if I speak to diaspora today, this would be my message to them. You have seen how proper systems work. We haven't, or most of us haven't. You have seen how a political party funded from the ground, from grassroots level, how that leader is accountable to the people. Today you look at the next 11 days, America is going to have a president, either Trump, who's a billionaire, or Harris, who's a multi-millionaire. But how they have financed that political journey is the remarkable. That is the story that Kenyans need to be told, that this is the yes we can moment, where you look at an individual and you elect them based on how you connect what they say with what they can do on the ground. And when people fund a political party and take a person to the highest office of the land, when that person understands that he's beholden to the people, then leadership changes. Because now that person can say that I'm here because of the people, not because of myself, because that is what has really ailed Kenya. The only president I feel who was somehow propelled to office by the people was Moi Kibaki. Because I was fortunate enough to see Moi Kibaki come here to Embu for fundraising. When he was forming DP, I remember I saw him in Isaac Colston, seated with people, and I remember my mom saying, that's Kibaki is running for president. And I could see now, there was a dinner and Kibaki would sell the vision of the country to the people. In those halls, you tell people, this is the Kenya I know we can build. And people funded DP because Kibaki was rich, but he didn't want to spend his money that way. That's the reason you found Kibaki would have dinners, 1 million plate, and Kibaki truly served, to a larger extent, the people. That is where I would now ask diaspora, how can you come in now? How do you connect this? How do you bridge this gap? Well, we come and tell Kenyans that we feel that these people espouse the leadership we want. So we are going to do our $10, our $5, then Kenyans will do their 50 shillings. I've seen Kenyans do that. for me, I'm speaking from a practical place with the case we have with Adani. I've seen 50 shillings, I've seen 20 shillings, I've seen 100 shillings. If we do that, then you serve the people. You know, today on the space, people told me that, Tony, we are doing the groundwork for you, because in the last case where Kalonzo went, our courtroom was empty. And I told them, it's the high time that you show the Kenyan people that you're passionate about that JKIA. Okay? So when Kenyans start saying, Tony, we will show up for that case, that is what, when people own a process, they become part of it. When they become part of it, then you as a person who they have bestowed that great privilege of saying, you shall be our voice, you shall be our face, you shall espouse what we want. You will be in that courtroom because we can't all sit there. You will talk because we can't all talk. If we can get Kenya to that point, then we shall elect leaders who serve the people. We shall elect governors who go to hospital and ask the right questions, who go to the president and tell the president, boss, your chief is not working for my people. So you either revert to NHIF, and as you sort out your issues, I need the people who voted for me to be able to give birth in a decent way. You go to hospitals and you find 4 women, 3 women in one bed, and they're all from giving birth. How logical is that? It doesn't make sense to me. Go to hospital and you find young men who've had accidents with border borders. The guy has a metal plate in his legs with screws and everything. One is sleeping one side, the other one is sleeping one side. Your legs, God forbid, touch each other. Is that what leaders we want? Those are not the leaders we want. But for the first time in this country, and I'll repeat this as I land, we're in a yes we can moment. If we shape this narrative properly, we shall have changed Kenya from the grip of a few demigods, a few oligarchs who have so much money. Now we shall give Kenya back to the people. The day we have the likes of an average Kenyan, an average guy who knows this is how proper structures work. You don't need to be told so and so is corrupt. You can see it. I wonder how EACC does it. I see it every day. You cannot convince me that an MCA who was elected when walking, in 3 years, he has bought a 4x4, a luxury sedan, he has built a house from 130,000 shillings. He must be the best economist in this planet. So those are the things I want. I wish that the diaspora can come on space and tell us, if you guys make bumper stickers and sell those stickers for 50 shillings, if you believe in our cause, put that bumper sticker on your car. That 50 shillings goes to the movement. If you guys believe in this movement, make a wristband. Every Kenyan who buys that wristband, that 30 shillings or 20 shillings goes to the movement. It's easier to sell 1 million wristbands worth 20 shillings than to sell one shirt for 2,000 shillings. If we can channel a movement that my grandmother in the village, God rest her soul in peace, but my old aunties can wear a wristband that says, and they feel that this wristband represents the new Kenya. When that border guy says, this wristband represents the new Kenya, I paid for the new Kenya. Now this country will begin to change, because leaders will start to see that Kenyans are beginning to own the leaders they want. It's now that we shall have flipped the card. It's no longer the leaders owning us when they give us money in these stadiums. It is now us owning them. That leader will go to office, and when he wants to be arrogant, you told them, you see this wristband, I put you in that office. Now that's when we shall start serving people later.
Thank you very much, Tony, for giving us ideas in terms of how to make leaders accountable. I mean, we can only hold leaders accountable if at all we make sure we are participating in the processes of putting them there, so that, they do not pay us in advance and then go and steal all they want. I just want to highlight a few comments. I say justice for all, your hand is up, but before I give you a chance, I just want to point you to one of the comments that has been made by Brian, now that I know you're in diaspora and you're supporting another political party. He says those in diaspora should stop supporting the rogue politicians when they come abroad. So those of you in diaspora, you justice. Don't support the oppressive ones. Just support the ones who are well-meaning and moving the Kenya forward. I also read a comment from Bina who says, when something is working, you don't need to say anything about it. You don't need any PR. If it's working, we'll all see that it's working. And so I agree absolutely. The international community is quiet. Someone's made that comment. Yes, it's true. The international community is quiet because, one, Kenya is a very important geopolity. And, the last regime, and the reason why the US was fairly interested is because the last regime, Uhuru's regime, was pro-China. So took the US out of the Kenyan space for quite some time. The US tried to get a foothold by supporting the current president. But you've seen in the past few years of this particular regime, we for the first time, Kenya was having, Kenya behaved like a crazy person on the diplomatic arena, where, in one evening we're looking east, the next moment with the US, and so it's fairly very confusing, even for those in the international community and the diplomatic community, because most of them are interested in Kenya's geopolity, but the behavior of those in government is one that you cannot even understand properly in terms of, how they're going. So they're being cautious in terms of how they engage. But we hope it's not just a matter of time. The most it can be, or the most you can last with this regime is 33 months. So the earlier, the better. And Anthony, I want to echo the fact that you're saying maybe it's a yes we can moment. So let's keep riding the wave. Let's keep riding the wave. I think Dawn is nice. So let's keep riding the wave. Karibu sana co-party party leader Justice. Karibu. Tumekungoja sana na sasa ongea kama mkuu wa chama. Karibu Justice. Just as you have the microphone, yielding it to you because you're your party leader and we've been looking for political parties. I have convinced Wanjiru that the best we need is a coalition of political parties or one big political party that is swallow all these ones that are in government. So as someone with experience in terms of political organizing, maybe you need to get to the microphone. As you try to get yourself there, Professor Fred Ogola. Okay, Professor Fred Ogola is, Professor Fred, please go ahead and speak.
Yeah, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I think there is what you have just said is what I'll begin by talking about, the issues of bringing political parties together. That has been a very, very big challenge until some people have theories that coalitions are formed out of weakness, not strength. But those are political scientists like us can discuss this until the sons come home to roost. But I'm thinking that the most important thing in Kenya that is needed at the moment is a narrative that will be able to put these people who are mismanaging the economy and politics together, because these people do not work on the system for the country, but they work for the system. And when I mean that working on the system means you're working on how to solve the Kenyan political environment, economic environment, working on how to revive economic sectors, create jobs, because that's the system. But here, it means, if you look at what system means, system just means that those in power and how to serve the interests of those in power. So if it's a regime in power and you're working for the regime in power, then actually you're not working for the people of Kenya. So you look at the institutions which have been captured, like institution of parliament, institution of the police, institution of the military, the financial institutions. The other day we saw Mbadi with his team in US trying to negotiate some more loans. Ruto is telling us here that Adani is coming in because there should be no need for taking more loans. So then you ask yourself that these people who are working for the system should be marked as number one enemy of Kenya. In fact, I want us to start even putting up a list of those who work for the system, and we distinguish them for those who work on the system. Like you see the fight against the liberation of Kenya, there are people who are working on the system. How can you change this system, which is meant to bring no accountability, a lot of corruption, no service delivery, is just a system which has been made to really steal and rip off the citizens and the country. So I was thinking that when we want to really galvanize, like you talk about the issue of Kenya's political environment, our way out, as per the topic of today, is first of all to identify who are the enemies and even the enemies from within. Like when we had the Gen Z revolution, we allowed a lot of people to look like friends, but they were enemies from within, and they rocked the whole revolution. And some of them are still inside, and we are still treating them as friends. We're in the same WhatsApp group with them. We attend the same meetings with them. We tell them all plans we have, and they are going to weaken the system. And for me, what is important is just to distinguish those who are working for the system and those who are working on the system. And last time I was distinguishing them by saying that in Kenya kuna kabila mbili. Wale wanaoiba, wenye wanatuibia. Those are working for the system because it's a corrupt system. Na wale ambao wanaibiwa, which is the majority. If all of us can actually agree, even before we come up with political parties and make coalitions, that we stand for this, then we find ourselves on the right side of history and saying, we are this group of people who will work on the system and work against the current system, which is corrupt, is dangerous, is killing people, is abducting people, is doing all sorts of evil. Then that thing can actually become important because people thought Raila was a revolutionist for a long time, but then it has come to pass that he's not. People like Kalonzo, when I meet them, not meet them in meetings, but I meet them in forums where you hear them saying they are the president in waiting. Then you ask yourself, is he working for the system or is working on the system or against the system? If you meet people like, I don't want to mention names, but I want people just to take their own position. Just use this analysis and write a list of the top 20 leaders you know and classify them whether they are working for the system or they're working on the system or they're working against the system. Then you realize that we, first of all, are very, very far from even forming up a political formation that can actually transform this country because many people are sold out. And I want to spend this time maybe just to disclose something that we went to this struggle with a lot of sacrifices we made because whenever you take a mic and the screen and say, Ruto is a thief, Ruto must go, immediately you lose your job, which I have lost. I was out of work for 2 years, volunteering, trying to use the resources I try to make, which the little I have to move on. And then these people realize they're economically in trouble, then they start inviting you and offering you positions like, you guys know that in a few months, days from now, after they have structured the parliament and Rigathi Gachagua has gone home, there'll be appointment of PSS. They ask you, there are 15 PSS. Can you go and have a handshake with son? So then you become, I don't know what. So they, first of all, crumble you economically. Then they try to ask you for positions to take so that they can remove the people who are opposing them. So they are using strategies. One, economic sabotage. If you don't give in, they now come in to now start arresting, abducting, beating, and sometimes even to kill. So they have a system that we must stand against and work on that system to turn it around. If we don't identify how we are going to do that, we are going to lose more. So for me, I think that we need now more leadership more than activists. And I've decided to stop being an activist and being a leader, identify a problem, take leadership, and solve it. And I'm thinking that a lot of activism, some of them are activists who actually work for the government and they pretend they're activists. And that's when people who work for the system. And when they're working for the system with their activism, you might be following them and you become their followers, but you discover that actually now you are the one actually been helping the system to stay in power. And I'm thinking that maybe Hillary, as the leader of this group, we need even to have a very clear diagnostic on how we can be able to get the people who are working on the system and against the system that can be able to destabilize the system, because the system is very strong. Remember, it was there before we were born. It's been there in all regimes. This system has been the same system from independence. it is still the same system running as now. So it is not easy just by some very quick thoughts thinking you can bring it down. There must be a very clear and elaborate plan on how to do it. But if you're not careful, it's gonna go the wrong way. And I'll be telling people, William Ruto can be your president for the next 20 years if you're not careful, because of the reason that if you go to the ballot in 2027 and William Ruto is in the ballot, who else in the ballot that can challenge William Ruto? Well, just as Juma is a party leader, does he have a machinery that can be able to destabilize Ruto? Can he has an alternative government that can be able to bring in board? I've had Okiom that wants to stand. Maybe Fred Ogola also wants it. But none of us has set up a system that can actually be an alternative government. So as far as I'm concerned, if we don't start looking for leadership and start looking for leaders, not even leaders, first of all, but leadership, because leaders are about positions, but leadership is about solving a problem, about coming up with a solution. If we don't try to build leadership, we will still just be realizing that in as much as Ruto looks very bad, he is so good compared to any other person who looks like alternative. So that was my remarks. Thank you very much. And I look forward to hearing other views, especially around how we can actually solve this political dilemma. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Ogola. The only thing I take from you, which is what I like, is your Damascus moment, moving away from activism to being a politician. This is a political problem. And we've agreed before you came to this call that where we are is a political problem that can only be sorted out politically. So that we've agreed. And the second thing we agreed before you got into the call was that leadership is a team effort. Everyone else has their role. So not everyone else can lead, but the team can lead. So once we put ourselves in places where we can build teams, then we'll be on the right track. But the third and the most important thing before I give it to Fabish is to tell everyone on the call is that Article 38 of the Kenyan Constitution allows us to organize politically. So there's nothing criminal about discussing how to take over political power. That's constitutional. So to the extent that we are planning and organizing ourselves to take over political power in a legitimate manner as by the Constitution provided, that is correct and that is allowed. So we can organize however we want in a way that then moves Kenya forward. And I hear your analysis of those on for which we must face these people in the next election. Professor, it tugs my heart to imagine that the people in power is what you think or could imagine would be the best for this country. I mean, Kenya has a diverse human resource, women and men who can do justice to this country. These people are engaged in potiapata. We said before in this call that, governments, I think it was Antonio who said that, governments before, Moi at least brought for us school milk. We knew there would be school milk. Uhuru brought a free healthcare. Kibaki brought free primary education. What have these ones brought? Apart from Madani, Chief Shah, and everything else that is just crazy. Justice for all, you want to say something? Then Fabish, in that order.
No, Nataka, let's simplify this. And thanks, Senator. Of course, Dr. Milton and the other guys that have spoken. The question is, tunatuma pesa wapi? Na, no, please, don't guide me. Tunatuma pesa wapi? And how is that safe for us in the conversation we're having? Hii kitu I'm not speaking in my native language, because if I want to go into my native language, I go into that. My question is that I can speak about where we're going into this conversation and all this, but mambo ya pesa, where are we sending money to, and how are we okay that this money is safe, and how do we verify that the money is going to be safe? Please, Daktari Neto, listen to me. I'm talking to you because I'm Pastor from Columbus, Ohio. I'm asking, Pesa yetu inaenda wapi? Wasted money. Hillary, you know that. Hillary, you know this. I'm not even pushing Hillary about this. Where is the money going? Where do we deposit our money? Which I'm willing to share my money into this conversation. But how do you guys account to it? Don't ask me about, tuanze kuongea, mimi Ruto is bad person, whatever it is. Right now we are talking about where is the money going to? So
Justice, thank you very much, Justice. I think your point is heard, and I think Dr. Milton, Dr. Abdi, and Hillary are definitely going to respond. We promise that we're going to do that before the end of the call. Thank you very much for being committed to the cause, and thank you so much. Dr. Milton, yeah? Okay. Dr. Milton. Go ahead.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Let me start by appreciating. I think the conversation is shaping up exactly how it should, and I appreciate everybody's input and the sobriety of ideas and the laser sharpness with which the thinking is coming and clarity of thoughts that we need to deploy. Let me begin with one thing that I think I said when we started this series is that revolution, this is a long haul. It is a marathon and not a sprint. And I'm grateful that there has been a consistency of certain individuals, and we have got new people coming on board. And there is an energy that is getting into this, which is very, very encouraging. So I want to say this, starting with my brother in Columbus, Ohio. Where is the money going? And how do we make sure that the money is safe? I want to answer you in this. When we started this, those questions were at the back of our minds, but we said we will keep them in the parking lot until the time is right. And surely the time is getting nigh for us to have this conversation, because now there are two things we are doing. We are doing political mobilization, we are doing political organization, and as we do this, I want us to envision a Kenya that we want, which is like a house with many rooms. So this house with many rooms, the master bedroom is where the political think tank mobilization and organization is happening. And the rest of the rooms are now being occupied by the different elements that will feed in to the master bedroom, where everything then happens, where every idea that has been processed and thought through is now deployed in terms of policy, in terms of ideas, and executed. And then the living room is where we all converge to eat the food that has been prepared in the kitchen. So your question is right, but I want to tell you that we may not have an answer for you immediately now, because we must create a system of accountability, lest we fall into the same trap that those who have come before us with the myopic mindset got excited and they gave an answer to this question and they received money and they did not have a way of accounting for it. And they ended up being the same monkeys that they wanted to send away from the forest. So I would want you to hold your horses, and I would want this gathering to be able to then, having brought out all these ideas that they did, we can now retire and we can caucus and be able to come up with that structure. And then we can tell you, my brother from Ohio, your dollars will be safe, you can now send them and contribute in this way, in this manner, and this is how the money will be accounted for. This is not just accountability, but this is where your money is going to go. That is very important. And for me, I would want to say, in response to you, give us a bit of time, let the team come together and deploy their minds into having an accountability structure that makes it work the way it works in other jurisdictions, as the question was posed here earlier on. And the other point I want to say is that as we mobilize, I now want to go back again to the same point I said, that in terms of putting the word out there, can we all, Nerima with all the work they are doing, Justice with all the work that you're doing, and everybody, Wanjiru, the lived experiences that we all have, Honorable Neto, the political mobilization, Tony at the grassroots, we want to now feed and tap into those chamas for the young people. Kule mtaani, where the young people are watching Arsenal playing Liverpool, where we are seeing chamas, our mama, whenever they are meeting, we want to tap at that level. We want to identify those religious spaces where our people were deceived to believe that this was a government of God, that these dealers were leaders. That is where we want to get into. And I would want us now to start, and I'm not putting the cart before the horse, but we have been descriptive enough. I would suggest that now we become prescriptive in terms of what we want and how we want to get this movement to move into action. The prescription is what I am keenly interested in. And I want to say that we can now reach out. Please DM. Let us get into those DMs. Let us get into those WhatsApp or Signal calls. Nerima and others who are tapped. Do we have alternative spaces where we can mobilize ourselves and reach each other? Yes, we do.
We're done with that. I'm done with.
I'm finished. I'm landing with my point. So that is the next level where we need to get into, so that we are not waiting for 7 days to come here and start talking again, but we are graduating this conversation from the X spaces, which is so general and public in terms of ideas coming out, into continual engagement outside of these spaces, so that by the time we are also coming here, we are not just describing what we have done, but we are also reporting and saying, these are the tangible steps we have taken from the last time we gathered here on these spaces. And finally, as I conclude this,
but again, let's have here.
I want to appreciate,
Prof.
I want to appreciate,
Doctor, listen. Let's have.
I was concluding. I want to appreciate, and let us also, Prof. Ogola, I follow you and everything that you're doing. Let us now get into this caucus and start injecting those specific deliverables, so that we can be able to take this movement forward. We can be able to identify those areas where the people are paying the ultimate price in terms of the job losses and all. How do we get to mainstream these people again into a system of meaningful engagement, where their skills are also appreciated, so that their children can also have the bread and manna to eat as they also agitate? Because at the end of the day, the way this system works, I've been offered the same things, Prof, like you have, where they deprive you and then they make you an offer because they think it becomes so attractive to you. So we need to ensure that we also galvanize ourselves from falling into that temptation, because we must not afford, we cannot afford to lose even a single soldier just because of a plate of ugali that they were deprived, they were starved, and at the end they had no choice but to go to the side of the oppressor because they were hungry and they could not afford to die. That is critically important, and we must be able to also consider it as we move ahead.
Thank you very much, Dr. Milton. Thank you for the input. I'm sure Justice for All has listened to your input. I'd like to give a chance to three people who have not spoken on the call before. And then, of course, I hand it over to Dr. Abdi. Dr. Abdi, do you want to say something? I see your mic off.
I'll just chime in. For justice, I think you have to raise your hand and wait for the speaker to finish. And maybe I will also chime in on Professor Ogola. I think we must acknowledge that Kenya political problems are deeply rooted with systemic issues that has evolved over decades, encompassing governance failures, entrenched political dynasties, ethnic polarization, the repetitive cycle of electoral promises followed by unmet expectations has actually eroded the public trust and has created a crisis of legitimacy across the national institutions. I think beyond the visible power struggle, there is a clear need for transformative leadership that prioritizes public interest over individual party gains. I think the Kenyan current predicaments call for leaders who can navigate these complicities by promoting policies that truly reflect on the people rather than divide. This is where inclusivity, integrity, accountability that must take the center stage in our governance. I think these are not just buzzwords, they are essential principles to address the disconnect between the leaders and the people. By weakening the checks and balances within our government, that has enabled impunity and fostered corruption at unprecedented levels. Courts, parliaments, oversight bodies have not maintained the autonomy needed to hold the powerful to accountable, I think. We need reforms that strengthen these institutions to ensure they have a reliable pillar of democracy rather than the extension of the political patronage. I think Kenya has to move forward with multi-pronged approach through a reformed electoral process, minimize the ethnic politics, investing in civic education, promote an informed electorate, and anti-corruption measures within clear constraints. I think true progress will require a shift from short-term play to a long-term strategy that generally addresses the social economic challenges facing our nation. So I think the political solution lies in building a cohesive vision for the future that transcends the tribal lines we always go, and I think through a shared responsibility and redefined sense of accountability, we can steer the country back to a democratic stability and prosperity. Thank you. That was my addition.
Thank you very much, Dr. Abdi. I'd like to give a set of new speakers a chance to speak so that at least we hear their voices. Albert, you'll go first, then Fabish, and then Redemptor, and then we can hear the next set of speakers. So, Albert, please go ahead.
Thanks a lot, gentlemen and ladies. Thanks. And of course, thrilled to speak after the great submission, of course, from Dr. Milton. I would also want to voice out, actually, for me, in the whole time of the movement or where we are as a nation, of importance is how the transition actually goes to the ground and how the population or the populace that we are trying to lead into this revolution actually grasps or actually brings to terms the information or the output that we expect from them. I'm saying so because I see this as it might soon turn to be an elitist thing, where, of course, the few elite or the middle class in the society can't see the problems, are voicing the problem on the platforms that we share. The diaspora is also equally doing a very good job into this, into trying to enlighten, provide resources like Justice for All was also trying to ask or say. And we've seen before that resources will come from different avenues, be it other social justice movements or even other fundings or foundations that actually fund such movements within different countries. indeed, Kenya won't be in isolation. And I agree that as Kenyans, definitely we will have enough funds, or Kenyans are ready to actually fund a certain cause for a noble and sober political movement that can be able to challenge the president or actually the civic space in the country. I see a lot of win, of course, from the movement. Looking back, I see a lot of win for Kenya democratically. I see that the population, or actually Kenyans or the youth, the Gen Zs, have now been also, or we, the millennials, have now been politically involved to actually look at issues and matters. We are reading, we're having a lot of time with the bills that are tabled in parliament, unlike the previous generations where voting was done and people went back to their cocoons and waited for the next electoral round. For the way forward, I want also to just support this, that a transition into taking the movement or the civic education back to the population on the ground, letting people know how their decisions actually relates to their day-to-day living, or to their the choices they make at the ballot, how actually it translates to their way of living today, I think will be the best and the most important thing. I see in most advanced economies definitely that it becomes a civic duty on the grassroots, that every citizen understands and knows why they are aligned behind a certain political party or behind a certain ideology. Otherwise, we are facing a highly or a richer political class who then, within a short time, when the electoral process starts, they are able to buy off all these voices or people who actually look a bit unled. They don't know what's happening. They are bought off through the churches. They are bought off through monies being splashed around. And it's a very big mountain to cross when you're coming from a movement, of course, because of issues of funding, other issues. I'll support. I'll support such a course where we have different skills now within the youth. We are really skilled. A lot of youth are skilled. In my doctorate program, where I've developed a few of of course, I work with my data from Kenya. It's on microeconomics level, definitely. So we're looking at different households, and we've also developed a few educational materials that we can actually translate. And we're looking at, we carried a whole RCT on the population, and we wanted to see is the population actually learning enough from these materials that we developed. They're quite extensive. It's mathematical things, but they tend to grasp these issues. In my opinion, the earlier we start with such things, the better. Then we have a more educated population from the grassroots. Then we can see that they make better decisions. As maybe the elite group continues to champion for the top management or the government actually to put things in order, stop the abductions and all these other issues that we have seen on the national grid. I think that we need actually also a team that really looks downwards on the population, because this is the majority that actually votes the president back into power, and we might be caught in a very tough place if we can actually not be able to transition this movement then to the population, and the population will not actually buy in and support such a movement. Then we'll have the same problems again that we've been facing in the last days. Asante sana. I return your mic.
Thank you very much, Albert, for the thoughts and how the practical steps in terms of how we want to move forward. We've taken notes and we are grateful. Fabish, you have the microphone.
Asante sana Neto, Hilary, wale watu wote ambao tumeshiriki hapa. Nimekuwa hapa na nimependa mazungumzo haya. Na kwa wale ambao mnanifuatizia, for the past 3 days I've been holding a space, and actually nearly similar to this, and we have been talking and trying to find solution. And you know, in order to achieve whatever we are intending to achieve, because we need political solution, we need economical solution, we need also to have our constitutional solution in our country. So we must have collective voices. So we have been working on that. Sisi wengine manake ndio tuweze kuelewana, we must accommodate different voices and line of thoughts. Like on my part, nasikia mnapanga political movement, how we are going to participate in 2027 election. Then what we have been discussing and with other Kenyans kwa hii wiki imepita, we have different opinion. Kwanza, we are faced with a lot of serious issues currently as we are talking that need to have immediate solution. One of them, it is the rampant abduction of Kenyans to suppress the voices. And we have go at length to know why are people abducted by this regime. When confronted with questions, the security organs, they have always distanced themselves. The NPS, we are not responsible for the abduction. We went to the DCI, DCI said, no, we don't know even what is happening. So we said, very good. It is good that we know that these are criminal gangs operating. So now, what are the solutions of a criminal gang that the security organs are failed to address? So now it is left for Kenyans to deal with the gangs in a manner that they can. Kwa hivyo tumesema kwamba we are going to form a security of our own. We are not forming a security to harass the citizens, but we are forming a security to protect ourselves against the gang, not against the constitutional institutions kama vile police. So if there is arrest and the police akakuja na akaji-identify kwamba Fabish have come to arrest you because of 1, 2, 3, then I surrender and I tell my colleague, my lawyer, or I inform my family. But tumesema, if a Subaru comes unidentified with people who unmask their faces, vehicles that does not have registration number, now watu wamekosa kuji-identify, then we will treat them as gangs. We treat them as criminals. How do we deal with criminals? First, you have to create a commotion. You cannot be taken by criminals. When we create a commotions, we deal with them in a criminal manner before we can suppress them if we can and hand over to the police, or we can do anything that we do to criminals. Vile za zingine tunafanya wala ambao wanatuibia simu, wala ambao wanatupakura vibeti. These are criminals because the DCI, the NPS have distanced themselves. Those one need political immediate solutions because hatuwezi kukaa kila wakati we keep pushing hashtag. Yesterday it was Boniface Mwangi na one of our comrade and Ras G and Aoko. Until now, after we don't know the whereabouts. You know, the other day it was Gaido. So we cannot continue always pushing the hashtag. Now, wale ambao watu wanajulikana kama kina Gaido, akina Boniface Mwangi, they will get luck. Watajulikana haraka and lawyers will rush. But we have young generals ambao they are always on the field. Kukiwa na maandamano, wanatokezea. Nobody knows them. They don't have the numbers on the spaces. So that is why most of them, they become victims na wanaenda wanauawa. So tumesema kitu ya kwanza, we need to protect ourselves. I agree. I know here kuna a lot of lawyers. I don't think there is any law that bars anyone from protecting yourself against someone who want to harm you. Now, then another thing that we have talked and agreed is that William Ruto is a tyrant, and we don't believe that a tyrant can be removed in a constitutional contest. A tyrant can only be removed by revolting and through revolution. But how are we intending to achieve that? Ndio sababu tumekuja na kitu naitwa 11-11 that is starting this 11th of November. What is 11-11? Kwanza, we are making sure that all our members, they recruit 11 people. And in that 11 people, we want to have collective voices and table just only 11 agendas of the revolution, that it is collected of all the Kenyan voices. These 11 agendas, these 11 points, ndio tutaanza from 1 tukifika 11 tunahakikisha kwamba we are done with the revolution na tuondoe Ruto, because until now we know that Ruto is playing a lot of games. Tulikuja tukasema we want to do civic education, Ruto akaenda akapanga script akasema okay, you want to do civic education, this is what I will do. Kila wakati I'll be giving you a bill, mnaenda mnafanya civic education, before you are done with that one he has thrown another one, even the one that is useless, that himself he doesn't have interest. Kama hii ilikuwa inaitwa term extension, he knew very well that that is a bill that cannot hold water, but he just throw it to keep us busy, you know. So we cannot fall in his trap, kwa anaturushia vitu objects left, right and center, alafu we keep on chasing those things. So sisi on our side, of which we need to talk on platforms like this, we have a platform ambao pia watu naongea, but we respect all the voices. Tunakuja kwa this huge platform, then we discuss, but sisi we have a view, not unless we are convinced otherwise, that William Ruto by looks, by action, is a tyrant that cannot be removed in a constitutional contest. It needs revolution. We have political problems in this country that have never been solved. Saizi tunaongea, there are political parties ambao wana parade like the opposition, and yet wanatuchukulia pesa zetu. Kuna pesa ambao inapatiwa political parties, they have never come at least to show solidarity na kusema we are not ready to be part of that looting. Why should political parties, which it's a private affairs, be funded by the taxpayers, and yet we have people dying because of lack of dialysis? We have students that cannot continue with education, and yet political parties are only there to receive money, and money that can never be accounted for. So we think that first we need to reset this country. When we started the movement in June, tulisema we want to drain the swamp, and we have to stick on that point. First, by draining the swamp, then now we come and address all the solution, including the political solution, economical solution, and every other solution.
Thank you very much, Kabish. You want to land?
Yeah, so kindly allow me to land. So we need to have this conversation to know the immediate solution. So as we are speaking in these places, people are being abducted every day, threatened, others killed, and we have to stop because they are using it in a criminal way. And nikimalizia, we have an intel that, in fact, these people that are doing abduction, they are not police, they are not DCI, of which we want to believe them. There is like a parallel police force ambayo inaoperatiwa from State House by the retired IG of police, Joseph Boynet na Farouk Kibet. They are on a group ambao they operate like a parallel police force, ndio wamepatiwa Subaru. Wale polisi walikuwa wamekuwa retired, those walikuwa wamekuwa dismissed, na other rogue police officer ndio wamechukuliwa, and that is why they always cover their faces. So we want to start unmasking them until we know their identities, and we will be visiting them on their personal level. That is the immediate solution, because we cannot in this country be intimidated always as if we are Kenyans kubeg mtu. Tulizaliwa hapa, tulioko hapa na Mungu.
Thank you very much.
We are not born in this country to be micromanaged.
Thank you very much, Kabish. Kabish, thank you very much. Redemptor, you're going to have the microphone next, and then admin, whatever that is. Dr. Abdi, I'm going to give you a chance. So Redemptor, you're going to speak after Dr. Abdi and then admin. But just before Dr. Abdi comes through, I really think, number one, Fabish, thanks for your thoughts. If indeed we want to move Kenya forward and make Kenya the country that we aspire to, then Kenya must be a country of rule of law and constitutionalism. And for us who are in this particular forum and space, I really think, and I've advocated before, I've said before a few hours ago that non-violence is a potent tool to use against the oppressor. So I really think that it's always good it's good to be emotional, it's good to be charged, but I also think that it's good to be also know that when you start moving towards the path of anarchy, that's how states that's how failed states work. We must always make sure that we call these fellows out and move Kenya towards constitutionalism. That is the first thing. But the second thing, I said before, these people are human beings. They are flesh and blood. They fear, they quiver. No political person that I know in the world, and I've studied a bit of history, both Europe, the Americas, and Africa. All people in political power are afraid. If we are organized, if we properly organize ourselves, these people will crumble. So you don't have to worry about anyone. No one is invisible. And the moment you think they're invisible, you give them a holier than thou or a God kind of scenario. These people quiver. And that's how come June 25th happened. Where were they? They had all instruments of power. June 25th happened. That means that with a bit more organization, we can send them home in good time and in due time. Don't be worried about these people. By the way, if you see, this place has 5, 6, 7, 8 doctors, not just elitists, not elites, but people who have studied some various disciplines, economics, law, medicine. You look at who is around them. You can't compare. In fact, just this small space with about 200, 300, 400 people of us is much better to be deployed as government. But Abdi, let me not talk badly. Please go ahead.
But William Ruto also is a doctor. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah. Thank you. Fabrice, I think you have to give the speaker when he's talking. And thank you for your input, Honorable Neto. And I really want to emphasize that in these spaces, we stand firmly against any form of violence. We believe in meaningful change in Kenya can be achieved through peaceful, constructive engagement, dialogue, and steadfast commitment to the rule of law. I know while frustrations are real, tensions are high, violence and loneliness only deepen the divide we are striving to bridge. Our focus must remain on solutions that foster unity, accountability, and respect for our democratic principles and values. Having said that, thank you. And I see Professor Ogola also was waiting, Honorable Neto. I'll leave it over to you.
Okay, thanks. I'll give Professor Ogola a chance, but let Redemptor speak first so that we hear the lady's voice. Redemptor Mikali, please go ahead. And then Dr. Ogola, and then Christopher Jeru. Thanks, Redemptor.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm sorry I came to this space late. I had planned to come, but there's a conversation I had to have, which is about the mothers of the nation. And that's one conversation that needs to be one of the things that we have to be intentional in planning. The mothers are waiting for lead. I was speaking because of the prophetesses who've been telling us about what God has said and castigating. That's another conversation. My input is that we realize that there are two groups of people that have been destabilized, two very powerful forces in this nation. And that is the political class, like I think Neto, is it Abdi who has said that it was Dr. Milton, that they were destabilized because they never saw it coming. The other group that is a very mover and shaker are the activists. Dr. Ogola, I think you're fatigued, and I say this respectfully. I want to thank you for your service because I want to inform you that the best politicians start out as activists, and Raila Odinga has perfected that art because they're able to command respect in the grassroots and then go to the ivory towers. So I'm sorry to inform you that you will not retire from activism. You'll just become better. And I'm saying fatigue because I've been following you, and I know a lot of people who have been on the front line way before June are fatigued. So these two people that we've destabilized, these are the mobilizers, the community outreach, the human rights defenders. They still have a play in a revolution, and the politicians. Secondly, they are not easy to buy because these people they don't just have a cause, they are the cause. When you go to the social justice centers, a lot of those people are the cause. They're fighting for themselves first because they are marginalized, they live in poverty. So when you have a cause and when you are the cause and you match these two groups, then there's a chance. There's a group of people that have studied very well, and these are independent human rights defenders. Something Fabish has come and talked about how we need to do retaliate. I think strategy needs to change with who are the commands of power. When you say, let's go to the street tomorrow, let's go to Standard Chartered. So today, someone asked me, what's going to happen because we can't fund all of you? Why can't you unite? I'm holding spaces. I'm talking to these people who are in Bunge la Mwananchi. I'm finding out why they never get arrested. This person asked me why we can't unite. I said because of the system will be poisoned, we'll tell on each other. So there's a strength in that all these people have been kuhamasisha watu about injustices for years, because the last 15 years, ladies and gentlemen, it's been painful being a Kenyan. There's so much injustice because of the manufactured poverty in the country. So what would be my takeaway? Ask me about any activists in this country and I'll tell you if they have the cause or they are the cause. There's nothing wrong with paid activism. I think this is a group of people that we are ignoring, and we are going for the new kids on the block who are sensationalists. I mean, I can name some ladies here. I think Nerima was named, but there's a lady called Wanjira who is in Madare. There's a young lady there. There's the Free Kenya movement, and then there's the Ogola's movement, Concerned Citizens. These people have been working for the last 2 years. Then we have the Bunge la Mwananchis. Of course, they're infiltrated by the system, but there's a critical mass of people that we might be overlooking in looking at how we'll change Kenya. I'm dismayed when I see the conversations going back to we have no option. Professor Ogola, I've heard you say it, and I'm a bit discouraged when you say we do not have a system yet. Systems are created, and they are created out of need. Of course, the big wigs are boasting that Kalonzo Musyoka has Wiper. It has been in existence for the last, I don't know how many years. ODM is, but the people's need for liberation can overcome this very gaping gap of where do we get the systems. So mine, I need to make a presentation where I don't have 3 minutes about what I know about fighting for your country that can be used. And I'm not ashamed about talking about it publicly because I think it is Neto who said there's no crime in mobilizing. They are mobilizing right now by merging parties, by giving positions, and a lot of the poverty that befalls human rights defenders, the independent ones, is a tool, but it can also be a weapon. Because once you identify them, I do victims advocacy and I never travel to Nyeri, but I can pick up a call and say, we have a civic actor in Nyeri, and I get a number. These people are legit. This is a resource that should be used for this because they bought into this liberation, but nobody believed in them. The young people are saving grace to this country, but we already have some tools that we can use to take these guys home. And also, how do we empower women? Women are looking for a way to come to the streets that is safe. How can we do that? Because we need to bring the mothers of these youth. Once the young people feel like the mothers care, and that's a conversation I was having with some people who they're so energized by the young people that the old Bunge la Mwananchi people are now doing civic education in matatus. They are not afraid. They've never been afraid. These are the protected, like we say, elitists, we call them. They have a cause, but they are looking for the right time to strike. So I still think we are going to deliver this country. I'm not ashamed to say we're in a very, very bad place, and these people must set us free. We are in shackles, we're in bondage, we are suffering. And Professor, your hand has been up. I just want to encourage you because I know you've suffered for what you stand for, but do not give up and do not utter those words again. We do not have a system, and they have a system. Their system is for stealing, killing, destroying, abducting, stealing. How many times have I said stealing? So, ladies and gentlemen, for everybody who has spent sleepless nights for the last 5 months, I just want to give you your flowers. Let's keep doing this. Asanteni.
Thank you very much, Redemptor. I'm going to have Professor Gola speak, Ngetich, and then Christopher. Then I can walk backwards to Wanjiru as I hand it over towards the host, Hillary. But thanks you so much, Redemptor, for what you've said. And number one, what we're doing here is legal. I said it before. Article 38 of the Constitution of Kenya allows people to move together, form together. It's political rights. It's under the Constitution of Kenya. So there's nothing that we're doing that's illegal. That's one. That's why I want to echo what Dr. Abdi has said. We want to remain within the confines of the Constitution of Kenya so that, we each time as we make every step, we invoke Article 1 of the Constitution of Kenya, Article 37 on freedom of Article 38 our political rights, so that all along the way we can then question, because if at all we take power through legitimate means, then of course, how then do you move back your country back to constitutionalism and rule of law? We must always keep our eyes there. But Professor Gola, Ngetich, and then Christopher, then Wanjiru. Please, Professor Gola, go ahead.
Yeah, first of all, let me thank you. I start with Milton. Let me thank you because the position you've said is my position, because we've done analysis and found that any government that took power through extra constitutional means will never leave power in a constitutional means. And if you do all case studies, look at Uganda. Museveni went to the bush, took power. Tell me how Museveni will lose power. No, he wants his son to take over from there, and there'll be nothing constitutional about how the son will take over. And that is his plan. You go to Rwanda, the same. go to places where people have gone extra constitutional. I don't want to narrate much because I'm sure everyone here is too educated even to be told many stories. Just a perspective enough for them to gather. And we do not want to take power extra constitutionally. So we must always behave within the constitution because we cannot accuse these people for violating the constitution and yet we want to violate the constitution to remove them. There is still constitutional means to remove them from power, and therefore we should not shy away from that. Then I go to Redemptor. Thank you very much for the encouragement, by the way. Let me just tell you, I've not given up. I'm just trying to be tactful because I've been, I don't know why.
Professor, you're now having an echo now. You're having an echo now.
Somebody who came in and opened his mic, that's the problem. Go ahead, Prof. It's okay now.
Yeah, so I'm saying that I've just faced situations whereby they identified me as the person who came up with the strategy for the young people to enter parliament, because I pasted that on my TikTok at midday to explain to people how we can enter parliament, and that is how it was executed. So they appointed a professor on the street, a professor of strategy, with all this knowledge. This is dangerous. That's why even when I went to Kitengela the other day, when Bob Njagi was to give a press statement, when they knew the policeman from Isenya DCC was there, even when we were having lunch, they were surrounding us, knowing what are we planning. They just want to listen to what we are doing. They even get scared about that a professor being in a classroom to be on the street, and he has done so many. So there's a lot of scary. They have sent so many people to me, even to convince me that these people will kill you, don't do these threats. And I can tell you some of those threats are just threats, but sometimes you wonder why the pattern. So I was just trying to say I cannot leave this work because this work is unfinished and I don't like leaving work unfinished. So sometimes not so much on the front line, but sometimes you'll see that I'll influence what happens in Eldoret. Like the wheelbarrow which was brought down in Eldoret, it was brought down by Bunge la Wananchi of Eldoret, that I am the one actually who has been supporting them. The demonstration that took place in Kondele in Kisumu was organized by the team of Bunge la Wananchi of Kisumu with the ones of Kondele that we executed with. If you go to the one in Homa Bay, Migori, was really involved, but not on the front line. Mombasa, the same. Bunge la Wananchi is doing a lot of work, Redemptor, even if they have some people within them who have system, but those are very few people. Government can only pick 2 people. They cannot pick the whole people. And whenever they pick anybody, those people lose power. So the government is incapable of controlling Bunge la Wananchi. That is the intelligence we have from State House, that the government is incapable because somebody gave them a strategy that was suited and just failed. So they are so scared about Bunge la Wananchi. What I know that with some good strategic mobilization, you can actually be able to bring them together. I've been trying to find how we can have national officials so that we can have structure from national level, county level, and you be able to cascade these to other cadres, but also see the danger because as soon as you make anybody national leader, and if they don't have, like what Redemptor said, if they are not the coast themselves, they are taken away. I remember even the chairman of Boda Boda Association of Kenya. Those people are in the government payroll. That's why when I was even putting a petition in court that President William Ruto cheated Boda Boda people that they were going to be in government and used their name to get fame and become popular. And I sued the government to be paid 26 billion shillings to the Boda Boda people. The chairperson of the Boda Boda Association refused to sign those things and to be part of it. He just told me for him, he cannot sue government and he cannot act against the government. And yet he is representing Boda Boda people. So as there's that, you must get the right people first, even before you create those structures. Because if there are structures of people working for the system, which is working for this corrupt system, then it is needless raising their profile up. So those are the challenges we have at the moment. Now, the way forward, which I'm trying to do at the moment, is try to create a strong structure for concerned citizens movement in all counties of people who come in to volunteer. Like now, I've been very successful in Nyeri, I've been very successful in Kisumu. I've been very successful in Mombasa, very successful in Kwale, very successful in Kilifi, in Malindi. That is a very strong team that are doing great jobs on the ground there. It's very strong in Nairobi as well. We are trying to put more roots on how we can be successful in some of these counties that looks like kind of rural but have very big population. So the issue, like someone says, I think Dr. Milton said, is a marathon, is not a sprint. So I guess that if you come up, if all of us come up with tactics on how to really slowly but surely grow, that issue of mobilization can work. But what is still lacking is us to do analysis properly on what are the pillars of this bad system and how can we cut these pillars one by one. Because if we do not cut these pillars and the roots, it is getting stronger. Ruto is getting stronger now every day as he continues being in this government. The Gen Z weakened him, but he has started to regain some of that power. And the power is not that he's popular. The power for William Ruto is just the money and the gun. That's all. There's nothing else. No one likes William Ruto. Even if you enter a matatu, anybody in Kenya tell me, just enter a matatu and say Ruto must go. You'll hear everybody joining you. Because nobody wants the man. Even in Marigat, I was in Kapkukui, deep down in Baringo. Even children don't like the man. I was running with school children when I was doing some work in Lake Bogoria. Even the children don't want him. So the issue is, having said that, what are the pillars that are holding Ruto to power? What are these pillars that he can use to be able to malign the country and still retain power if election was to be called? And how can we be able to take charge of those systems and structures and then render him again powerless? For me, that is what we are going to do. But I want to assure you guys that if someone calls me to give me a job in government, I would rather run out of this country if I'm dying of hunger and get a professorial job in the US or somewhere in the UK and keep quiet than to join this government, because I can tell you what I believe in my heart. There's market for values. If you have your values, one day there'll be a bank account where you can put the card of your values and withdraw money. But you cannot withdraw money in this corrupt bank account of William Ruto, because that is actually a curse. So because that's what I believe in, I believe that the right ATM will come when these values can be cashed. Even if I don't go on the front line, I will still be doing a lot. And that's why, it's around midnight, it's around 11 p.m. In Nairobi, and I'm still up, yet I wake up at 3 a.m. every day. So that shows the commitment that I'm telling you, Redemptor. There's nothing like coming down. There's no giving up. The only day I'll give up is when William Ruto and this regime has actually gone home and we have the right people whom you can sleep and say the government is in place. But here, whether you are sleeping, whether you are driving, whether you are eating, whether you are walking, everything is going wrong. So there's nobody who can be at rest with it. And I want to encourage you guys. I'm not being spiritual here, but I know I have spiritual background. My father was a catechist. This war we are fighting that keeps people at work at this time to discuss, not a normal war. This is a war of Yahweh. And Yahweh never loses, especially if we really put our heart into it. So, Redemptor, we are there. We will win. The team that is here, let us just be very strategic.
Thank you very much, Prof. Prof, thank you very much. Thank you for all the insights and all the things that you do. Just that some of them need to be more strategically discussed elsewhere. But thank you so much for all the efforts that you're putting in. I think we're moving towards having the last set of speakers, unless someone's going to have issues. But Abdullahi, you want to speak? And then Wanjiru, and then Redemptor, if you have any more things to add before then I give it to the last set of speakers. Abdullahi?
Yes, good evening, guys. I think what we are doing is very good. I can say we are doing a very good work for our country. And those guys, the Hillary, the Honorable Neto, I've been following you through X account. And whatever you're doing have been very great. We only to do one thing. One, let's have a system on the ground. There are a lot of people, youth, elderly people who are in the village. They don't access these online materials. So let's have a system, and through Kenya, we will go to every village, talk to people, and mobilize ourselves. That's one. Because we have many youth, many old people who don't have phones. They are hit by this situation, but we need to have to conduct civic education, and it needs resources, and we need to mobilize ourselves. Personally, I'm from Mandera. We are very ready from that side, northern Kenya, but let's have a very strong movement on the ground, not only through this space, but on the ground. We need to crisscross the countries, the county, many counties, and create basis for which we're going to fight for our country. It is not only the president. All the political leadership is against wananchi. They are there to enrich themselves only. So we are doing a very good work. I think it should not stop. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Abdullahi. Our greetings to the people in Mandera. And when boots on the ground, of course, we will definitely start from Mandera, because that's where the whole of Kenya will bring it down. So, Wanjiru, you want to have your last remarks? Thanks so much, Abdullahi.
Hi, everybody. It's been a very, very rich conversations here. And I think everybody's going to take away a lot of insights from, every person who's spoken today has said something that, we're going to be focusing and thinking about. My take is, I think these abductions and femicide that's happening at the moment, it's really troubling me. And I'm just thinking about how we can take action. But again, I'm just reminded of what happened when the acting Inspector General of Police was summoned to court, and he defied court orders, and then the abducted 3 were dumped somewhere, and then he somehow decided to come to court. And the way the whole scenario played out, it just showed how the government is not, it's not bothered about the security of its own people. But we cannot just sit easy and just say, well, it's not happened to me, so I can't do anything. We need to see how we can. My idea is, can we petition Parliament as citizen and say, we don't feel that the government is taking the security of its own citizens seriously? Or can we petition the head of state? Can we sign petitions and send it to the head of state and say, this is happening, and we need action taken, and we need government to come out clear and tell us, what they're doing to safeguard the safety of its citizens. I don't think this is, it should be business as usual when, we women were just abducted initially and killed, so many body dumped in mortuaries. The mortuaries in Nairobi are full. I don't think it's business as usual. They're so much concentrating on impeaching the deputy president. But I think the first person who should have been impeached should have been the cabinet secretary for interior for all what has been happening. But unfortunately, that same person now is being, has been seconded to be the deputy head president. And it just shows how the country is just heading to the wrong direction. So I don't know what we can do, what we can, what the lawyers in this space suggests we should do about this, because no one is safe until this issue is addressed. And the minute we start talking about it, maybe they might retreat and take this special unit away. I don't know how, but I think we need to put pressure on that area. In terms of the movement, I think there are things that we should be talking in other spaces, because if we put all our bets on this space, as you can tell, we don't know who's on the space and who's listening. And then, sometimes you find that the things we speak here, they go and strategize against them. So we're not afraid to speak. We're not afraid to speak and share our ideas. But I think there are some critical things that we need to find other spaces where we can, strategize and discuss. Thank you, everybody, for your discussion this evening. I'll drop on that note. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Wanjiru. We appreciate the insights, and I agree with you. The issues of strategy, the issues of tactics that need to be formulated elsewhere. Redempta, you have any closing remarks?
Yes, I just want to thank the hosts and co-hosts for this space. The purpose of this space is not to strategize, it's just to recharge and remind ourselves that we are on a mission to change the destiny of this country. And because they're always listening, I want to say something that might be controversial, that the femicides and the killings and abductions that have gone on in Kenya in the last 2 years is an element of the occult. And just to tell them that it looks like their offering has been rejected. We might not believe in these things, but they are doing them. So where we are at as a country is like you've caught the thief red-handed and they're still insisting. And what I know about liberating this country, authentic voices, authentic faces, authentic strategies are going to just meet. I don't know how it will happen, but they will meet and they will plan. It's just by listening to people and we have discernment, you can be able to tell that is a gatekeeper for the system. So anyone who's listening to these spaces and thinking we are telling everything, the resolve is very strong and it will happen. I don't know how, but it will happen. Asante.
Thank you very much, Redempta. And Redempta, just to give you courage, is that we are not tenants in this country. We have an equal say, we have equal shares. That's the word to use. And we're not afraid. And no one is doing us a favor by either giving us space. We all have inalienable rights as by constitution enshrined. So we don't owe anyone an apology for organizing politically. We're just saying the healthcare is not working. The education system is not working. The security system is not working. The country is not working. So we want to have a country that is working, where they can, if at all our country is working and they were stealing, we don't have a problem. Now they're stealing from us and the country is not working. So first of all, we want to sort out our country. Dr. Milton, you have the microphone.
Yeah, just to add also to Ramta, I think the president was in the space too with a few of them. So he was listening anyway. And we give him the right to respond. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Dr. Abdi. Dr. Milton, you want to go ahead?
If somebody could go before me, please.
All right, Bonnie, Dr. Bonnie. Dr. Bonnie, can you hear me? I'm moving that way because I'm looking at the hour and I'm going to be requesting the host to get the space in a few minutes. So if Bonnie would go, yes, we can hear you, Dr. Bonnie.
Yeah, sorry. I just want to close out by saying, it's been a pleasure having all of you here. Very productive discussion. I continue doing my work in a small piece, which is to keep our governments accountable. If you are someone who's sitting there asking yourself how you can help, please contact me. I'm going to drop my email here. There's a lot of shenanigans and debauchery going on in our counties, and I need all the help that I can. So to the extent that you can help, please email me and then I'll show you how you can help. Thank you guys and have a nice day.
Thank you very much, Bonnie. So I'm going to hand you the microphone, Dr. Abdi, so that at least you can then speak and give it back to Hillary. But first of all, so thank you for everyone else who was listening and was participated in the call. And as always, I thank you for always wanting to stay objective. I think the only way to disarm the enemy, and I speak as a politician, is to stay the course. We must stay the course. We must stay the course, and stay the course within constitutional and legal means. That's the only way to disarm the enemy. There's nothing else that they can have against you. One, no one has monopoly of political organizing, so we must organize ourselves politically, and we must look very, very strong. And we have what it takes. I mean, I've seen political movements grow. I've seen political parties grow. We have what it takes. So number one, I'd say we must politically organize, either as a single political party or as a coalition of parties. And I think that for me is what I want to say. That's number one. Number two, we need to start organizing how to fund, how to support, and that's why Justice for All, Milton, Dr. Milton, Hillary, and everyone else. We need to put ourselves together in terms of how then do we start doing the small thoughts. If it's going to be reborns, if it's going to be small monies that Kenyans can then feel that they're part of the struggle. It's going to be 50 shillings, it's going to be 100 shillings, it's going to be $10. In a way that we must then move this. The movement needs a bit of oiling in terms of fuel, in terms of public health systems. We must plan in that particular way. But number three, and the last one, is we must get our country back. It is our solemn duty. We must live the aspirations of the founding fathers of the nation. They did not give us a country so that we watch it being auctioned to other people. We will owe it to our grandchildren that we protected the sovereignty of the Kenyan people and we hand it to them a country that is functional, a country that is working, a country that they can live in peace and prosperity. Thank you very much, Dr. Abdi.
Thank you, Honorable Neto. Yeah. So as we wrap up today on this very insightful space, I want to extend my gratitude to everyone who was listening, actually, including Mr. Ruto and Dennis Itumbi and other few cabinet ministers who were there. And we hope to hear directly from them, actually, with the right to respond to pressure point. Having said that, today we are confronted with some hard truth, the power struggle, the leadership crisis, the institutional decay that have crippled our nation. But acknowledging these challenges is only first step. I think real transformation demands action. It calls on each of us to mobilize, to unite with intention, and to champion the change Kenya wants urgently. I think now more than ever, we are actively seeking leaders who prioritize services over self-interest, integrity over influence, and the welfare of the people over personal gains. I think these moments demand our collective voice, a unified stand calling for accountability, transparency, and a meaningful reform. I think as a custodian of Kenya's future, we have power and responsibility to guide our people towards a path of justice and prosperity. Let's remain steadfast in our pursuit, holding our leaders accountable, keeping alive the spirit of change. Together we can build a Kenya that truly reflects the hopes, the dreams, and aspirations of its people. Thank you all, and let's stay committed to the vision of a nation that serves, uplifts, empowers every Kenyan. Over to you, Hillary.
Thank you so much, Abdi. Thank you so much, Neto. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. And we really appreciate your time to be here all the time. Every Sunday, we are here, Pressure Point. And we have heard what you are saying about contribution and everything. We, as the Pressure Point team, this is a marathon to us. And we have a great, good, and wonderful plans on the same. We don't want to be like any other group. And that's why we are consistent with what we're doing. I really appreciate your time all the time. Prof, thank you so much. Anthony Wanjiru, the Dem Chief, thank you so much for joining all the time. Dr. Milton, you want to close to us for today? Because you're closing. Nonini, karibu sana all the time. Daktari.
Okay, thank you very much. I want to say this. First of all, I want to acknowledge and appreciate everybody for their contributions tonight. The conversation has been quite rich. And I want to tell you, when you see Ruto and Itumbi join in person, probably they are still listening anonymously. And I want this to get to them. That as a people, we remain consistent in calling them out for the bad governance that they have visited on our country and for being so callous and reckless in the way they are conducting the affairs of our country. There is no illusion in my mind that if Honorable Ruto was to ask me the same question, I was going to answer, I would be able to tell him on his face. And I mean, because we are doing the right thing. Article 38 of the Constitution, and by and large, Chapter 4 of the Constitution is very, very clear in terms of the rights that we have and our political rights to mobilize, to organize, are not limited by dint of Article 24 of the Constitution. Therefore, what we are doing, I want to encourage every one of us. Let's keep doing it. Let's keep talking about it. And the last point I want to make is a call to action. This is the time for us to now reach out, caucus, and take action. Step number one, please, Professor Ogola, Wanjiro, Redemptor, Tony, and everybody else, let's now reach out to the DM. Let's begin to put together a solid strategy. I am available. I have made available the platforms that I have under my control, and we will be able to put in and invest the little money that we have, the little resources that we have, to put together the team, to make sure that the caucus is facilitated, the movement can be able to benefit, and it is well oiled to move. And as we do so, I want to seek that we get the indulgence of everybody as we put together an accountability structure, a structure that will be able to have all the right ingredients in terms of budgeting, in terms of mobilization strategies for resources, both human capacity and financial means, so that we put in a well-oiled machine. Like we know, the old adage goes, a well-oiled German machine that will be able to deliver on this movement, so that we are able to attain what they are able to do. What we want to do is to make sure that the fear they are instilling in our people, we will turn it against them. And so that whenever they hear that pressure point and the Kenyan people are speaking, they will be shaking in fear because they know what that means. That is why we must now tap into each other's networks all the way down to the villages, so that the Mamamboga, the Boda Boda people who are intimidated and blackmailed, thinking that William Ruto's government and his cabal are all powerful, we must be able to debunk those lies and give our people the confidence that they can invoke their inherent power as they have given themselves in the constitution to be able to send this cartel and run them out of town, so that the Kenyan people can see and reap the benefits of the governance system they have enacted for themselves in the supreme law of the Constitution of Kenya 2010 and all its legislations that have uh, acquired life from that supreme document that the people enacted for themselves. I want to conclude by saying that you will know them by their deeds and their words. And I can assure you that the fact that we do not have an IEBC substantively for the past 2 years, this is going to be the third year, is a deliberate scheme. The fact that they are now talking about and distracting us with the bill to extend the term, I want to tell you this. There is no intention by this Kenya Kwanza regime to have the elections in 2027. And the sooner the Kenyan people wake up to that reality and tell themselves that they must run them out of town, the better for our country and for our children. Otherwise, we will be knocking our heads against a brick hard wall, and we will not see any result, and we will be behaving as the old adage goes, doing the same things over and over again and expecting a different outcome. Kenyans are wiser, they are better, and we must demand for better, and we must act differently, because our country must now be liberated, and our transformation must begin for the sake of our children and our children's children and generations that will come after us. Thank you. May God bless you all, and God bless our motherland, the great country.
Thank you so much, Daktari. Thank you so much, everybody. Let's see you again next Sunday at the same time, 7 p.m. the time. We are on the course. Keep DMing me. Come on board. Let us see what we can do together. Thank you so much. God bless you all.
Tunaingia vijijini, mijini na hata jijini kukuletea taarifa mchana kutwa. Usiku tunakaa kitako, tunadadavua tukichanganua taarifa na makala muhimu yanayokuhusu wewe na familia yako.
Nasikia watu wanasema baba ametusaliti. Between baba kutusaliti na sisi kusaliti baba, nani amesaliti mwingine?
Inapeangwa, it mostly goes to foreign ministries. So Baba is overqualified for that position.
To build this railways for Africa. So now he's thinking about tumemkataa kama baba wetu.
Unaweza kuwa kuna mtoto ulizaa ukapatia nchi ikuwe inamfanya vile inataka.
Uhuru has been working very hard. Ruto akaenda huko na nguvu. Ruto was never invited in the inauguration.
Ungana na Bernard Ngozi kwenye Open Forum Political Show kuanzia saa 4 usiku hadi dakika zake kila siku ya wiki kwenye Soundcard Talk.
Open Forum Political Discussion Show. The show that gives you an opportunity to air what you feel and think about the latest development.
Tukutane Soundcard Talk.